Folks, my name is Chad Prather, and I'm running for governor in 2022 in the state of Texas. And I'm here to tell you something you don't want to hear. Texas is not the Texas that most Texans think it is anymore. Texas has long been thought of as a red, conservative state that holds small government values. But unfortunately, Texas has become quite blue. And those who call themselves Republicans in Texas politics, by and large, have done nothing to solidify or protect our conservative legacy and foundation. And that includes this current governor, a career politician who's consistently usurped power and made unilateral and even dictatorial decisions that have affected the lives of all Texans. He's grown a government in Austin that is completely out of control. He's been referred to as the most powerful governor in Texas history, and our representatives pander to his every whim. Texas government has become an all-consuming blob that rolls through, absorbing everything it touches. It grows bigger and it moves on to leave us in its wake with no remorse. I remind you of the words of the great Sam Houston, who advised us to govern wisely and as little as possible. The overreach of today's Texas government is ignoring that sage wisdom and is a living reminder of how far we've fallen from Sam Houston's counsel. Now, if a larger government was the answer to our problems, then why aren't our problems solved? Why do so many problems continue to exist and even grow larger? We do not have a secure border. Property taxes are out of control. Our power grid has been mismanaged. We've seen an increase of state spending to the tune of $48 billion in the last 7 years, not to mention the frivolous spending of $295 million on unconstitutional contact tracing. This governor personally oversaw the collapse of a state economy through unconscionable quarantines, mandates, and shutdowns through the extreme mismanagement of the COVID-19 pandemic. You were told you could not go to church, you could not congregate, and many of you, as well as your businesses, were deemed non-essential. And they were summarily shut down, with many going out of business for good. You couldn't even visit your dying family members due to government mandates. You couldn't go to funerals. You couldn't go to weddings. Your constitutional rights have been violated over a dozen times in the last 18 months, and yet we sweep it under the rug and continue to agree with the mainstream media when they refer to this governor as a conservative. Folks, we've been fooled. We've been duped. And in the name of safety, we've sat back as our liberties have been trampled on and stolen. I'm here to remind you that the Constitution was not written to keep you safe, and it was not written to keep you healthy. The Constitution was written to keep you free. As I said, my name is Chad Prather. I'm running as a true conservative Republican to primary this governor in the upcoming 2022 gubernatorial election, and I want to ask for your help in making Texas, Texas again. On March 1st, 2022, we have the opportunity to get government out of our lives. By voting for me in this upcoming primary election, we have the ability to install common sense in Austin. We have a chance to make conservative priorities more than just a legislative footnote. We must reestablish state sovereignty in Texas. We must close our open borders without asking permission from Washington, D.C., which has placed a very specific target on the back of Texas. Now, as governor, I will deploy the National Guard, Texas military forces, and the necessary state law enforcement to seal the border, enforce immigration laws, and deport illegal aliens. When it comes to illegals crossing our border, we must disincentivize the reason that they're coming. Then we must be sure to detect and deter, detain, deport, and at all costs defend our southern Texas border. As governor, I will ensure that through legislation, Texans will not lose their jobs, nor will students be penalized for declining a COVID-19 vaccine. We must enforce the laws that are on the books and stop turning ideologies into policies. Texas must become a constitutional sanctuary state. Texas schools will teach students basic knowledge and American exceptionalism and will absolutely reject critical race theory. We must have a solid plan that immediately reduces and works to eliminate property taxes and maintains a state legacy of no state income tax. We will protect the integrity of our elections by verifying that registered voters are American citizens. We will restore felony penalties and enact civil penalties for voter fraud. We must know that when we flip the switch, our power is going to come on, and we must rest assured that the elected representatives we send to Austin are there to work for you and for your priorities. I will consistently and adamantly defend the sanctity of innocent human life, created in the image of God from fertilization until natural death. As governor, I will advocate to see that the Texit bill actually has its proper place on the voter's ballot, and in so doing, remind the federal government that America needs Texas far more than Texas needs America. This reminder is how we will leverage Texas' power to put our country back on track. Now, as governor, I will stop the tyranny, censorship, and misinformation campaigns against conservatives that has been carried out by big media and big tech for far too long. I will not be bought out by special interests, Silicon Valley, foreign entities, or multinational corporations. And folks, the days of taxpayer-funded lobbyists is over. We will no longer apologize for the things that have made Texas great, independent, and wealthy, such as our legacy of farming and ranching, as well as our great oil and gas industry, which has made Texas a global leader. In 1773, a few of our founding fathers went out into Boston Harbor and began to spill tea into those dark, cold waters. It was a message to King George that his tyranny was overreaching and too much. They knew they were being represented by someone that did not value their lives, much less they didn't want him controlling their future. It's time for the great people of Texas to rise up and send a message to Travis County. It's time for us to have an Austin Tea Party. Let's make the message crystal clear that tyranny will not be tolerated in Texas. Join me. Add your name as one of those who's no longer willing to sit idly by while Texas is diminished and our greatness is stolen. Make Texas, Texas again. Visit Prather2022.com. My name is Chad Prather. Vote for me March 1st, 2022 in the primary race for Texas governor. May God bless you and may God bless Texas.